Would I be the butthole if I asked a member of the wedding party to wear something to cover their hair? I am getting married this fall, Rona willing. One member of the wedding party has neon yellow-green hair and has said they plan on keeping that color for the foreseeable future, including for the wedding. I did not know this person had dyed their hair until after I'd asked them to be in the wedding party. They've dyed their hair a few times in the past but never their whole head, more of just highlights or ombre and low-key stuff, and never a color this bright, so honestly I just didn't see it coming. Everyone else has more muted colors of hair and the dresses/tuxes are also on the grayscale, so it's going to stand out. I know it's just hair, it's their choice, and I am trying to be as respectful as possible. However, I also frankly don't want to look at my wedding pictures for the rest of my life and have the first thing I notice be their neon freaking hair. It seriously draws the eye. Ideas we have come up with to mitigate this. Make all the photos of the wedding party be in black and white. 2. Ask the photographer to edit this person's hair to a not neon yellow-green color, which may also be an a-hole move. Still feel weird about that, opinions welcome. Or 3. The option someone proposed that I'm really conflicted about, ask the person to wear a wide lace headband or wrap that covers most of their hair, and style it pulled back, so it's more or less tucked away for most of the pictures. If it matters, we bought/rented dresses and tuxes for everyone, and would pay for this accessory too, and we are paying for hair to be done professionally for the wedding party, because if I'm going to ask people to look a certain way for an event for me, I don't want to then force them to pay to do it. But I can't tell if this would be taking my input a step too far. It was a little awkward when I asked how long they were planning to keep their hair neon, and I just asked coming from a place of curiosity, not asking specifically about the wedding, so I think they might get mad at me if I asked them to more or less hide it. Would I be the butthole if I asked this person to wear a hairpiece/style that covers most of their neon hair for my wedding? Edit to clarify, I'm asking would I be the butthole for asking them to consider a hairpiece that covers a lot of their hair/pulls it back from their face, not telling them this is what I want or they'll be out of the wedding. If they're not comfortable with the hairpiece, then I'd ask how they'd feel if there was editing/color balance adjustment to the photos to tone it down, and if that's still a no, then we'd just pick black and white photos. We get one professional album with our photography pack, so we'd just make the whole thing black and white photos. We'd still have digital copies of all the photos, color and not, just the ones we'd hang in our house, and stuff would probably be black and white. No one is getting kicked out of the wedding for how they look. No one is going to be forced to do anything. Update. My original post didn't get a ton of responses, but I really appreciated the people who did respond, and I wanted to share an update since the situation is fully resolved. While the top comments were not the butthole, I read every comment and I got a lot of different perspectives, and I continued to think on the situation and reflect on what you all said. I had a realization that I was putting all my stress and anxiety about life and the wedding, as well as my frustration with some unrelated rude/hurtful things my friend had done, into my frustration with the hair situation, because it was an easy thing to be upset about. I did some deep breathing and decided it wasn't worth saying anything about covering the hair. For my mental health, I needed to just let it go, and let everything else go too. My wedding day was amazing. I am so glad to not only be married, but also be done with wedding planning and moving and all of it, cause holy heck it was a lot. Some people said I was shallow to even care about the hair/pictures at all, and yeah, I probably am. I accept that. The hair does stand out a lot in the color pictures, and the person had their natural roots, which looked absolutely awful. I'm not going to lie, I found it incredibly rude they dyed their hair neon and then didn't even bother to make sure it was maintained for being in a wedding. But in black and white everything looks totally fine, and I love black and white pictures anyway. They also got married a bit after my wedding. The bad voice in my head couldn't help but note that they bothered to get their roots done for their own wedding. I complained to my husband a bit in our hotel room after the rehearsal. Got it out of my system. Had a great time in their wedding. I guess all this to say, whether or not it would have been an a-hole move to ask them to cover their hair, as people pointed out, it wasn't worth it. The hair did bother me, I am a little shallow, I am a little selfish. But it wasn't as big of a deal as I was making it out to be. It was better to keep all shallow, selfish, and bad thoughts to myself and my husband, work on acceptance, and move on. Writing this is my closure. I will spare no more thoughts or energy for the neon hair. Thank you all for helping me find perspective. Edit. Just to clarify some questions I've seen come up, since people have cared enough to message me about it, why do I think it was rude not to dye their roots? Would I have paid for it? Did I pay for things for them to be in the wedding? Were our weddings far apart enough? Etc. I paid for everything I could to help take off the burden: dresses, tuxes, hair, even offered people places to stay if they didn't want to do a hotel. If they'd told me it was a money issue, I'd gladly have paid for the roots to be done too if they told me they needed help. I know people are in various financial situations. I told my wedding party if there were any financial challenges coming up in being a part of my wedding to please tell me and I would help, because I didn't want it to be a burden. I think when you are in a wedding you are agreeing to maintain your appearance and hygiene for that day. You're going to shower before, you're going to brush your hair and teeth, you're going to do what you need to do to be presentable. In my perspective, if you dye your hair a very attention-grabbing color that differs dramatically from your natural hair color, then you make sure the dye job looks decent and well done and not an inch grown out, and that's part of looking presentable for a formal event. The weddings were months apart. They got the roots touched up not too long after my wedding and then again the weekend of their wedding. I felt it was rude because it was clear the person did consider it something important to do for other events in their life, just not my wedding. And that to me shows a lack of care, especially when again, I would have paid for it. Additionally, I was in their wedding and paid for my dress, and for their bachelorette party, they did not contribute to or come to mine. And you know what, all that is fine. They're well in their right to do whatever they want with their money and their hair. It's just it all added up, and me, knowing them, knowing their situation, I found it rude. It is what it is with respect to that friend. I am unbelievably happy with my wedding day and my black and white pictures, and I'm so grateful to be married and to have had all my friends by my side for the day, regardless of their hair. Next story. Am I the jerk for telling my sister gentle parenting is BS and kicking her and her family out of my house? My younger sister and her family, which includes her husband, and 2 kids, 3F, 5M, were visiting my husband and I and staying at our home for a week. A little background: we don't live in the same state. I've had kids of my own, but they are young adults now and out of the house. My sister is much younger than me and is still in the young family stage. We've always had a pretty close and good relationship despite our age gap. My sister does gentle parenting. I'd never heard of that before she came to stay with us, because I guess I'm out of the loop since my kids are grown now. She explained to me that gentle parenting means they don't do timeout, don't do grounding, etc., but instead just talk about their feelings. I thought that was a bit odd because it sounds like there is zero discipline, but didn't say anything as to not rock the boat. Until I saw gentle parenting in action and was appalled. During the first 2 days of their stay, her daughter drew on my walls with crayon. And her son pulled up flowers I had recently planted in my garden bed and threw a rock at my car parked in the driveway. To top it all off, they both kept constantly pulling my golden retriever's hair and hitting my dog in the face. My dog is very sweet and a little on the older side, so she's very calm. She never bit, attempted to bite, or did anything that would harm or spook the kids. In every instance, I was expecting my sister or her husband to discipline the kids. They never did. So I did. Or at least I tried. Just me telling her kids to stop, or scolding them in the slightest, made my sister lose her mind. She told me it's not my place to discipline them. I told her someone has to because they're messing up my home, but I agree it should be their parents scolding them. However, it seems their parents are not willing to. I told her they need a fairly stern punishment for what they've been doing, and she started going off about how they refuse to spank their kids like we were spanked as kids. I told her I'm not suggesting she spank her kids, but a stern talking to and making them clean up what they destroyed would be a good idea. She said what her kids were doing was not worth what I would call discipline. All she did in every instance was ask them, "What kind of feelings are you having that made you do that?" And that was it. So I realized this behavior was not going to stop, and my husband and I told them they need to find a hotel or go home. Even though we had planned for them to stay a full week, we couldn't handle more than 2 days because of the gentle parenting. I told her the gentle parenting is going to cause her kids to have a very hard life and rude awakening someday, probably even jail time. She argued back and really lost it when I told her this hippy-dippy gentle parenting crap is a scam and will ruin your kid's life, which I regret now but boiled over in the moment. Now she won't speak to me and our mom says I'm in the wrong for kicking them out when they planned on staying longer. Am I the jerk? Update. Update, I read the comments. Sounds like my sister's version of gentle parenting is not actually gentle parenting. However, the real gentle parenting lots of you are describing still sounds like an odd choice of parenting in my view, and if it was around when my kids were little I can't imagine it would have worked on them. I guess this new generation of parents are just doing things differently. Not sure how that's going to work out in the long run for society, but to each their own. The world isn't gentle. How are all these gentle parented kids going to deal with the real world when someone yells at them or does any of the things gentle parenting doesn't include? If our world was a perfect utopia, then gentle parenting sounds great, but it isn't, and it's not realistic to me. I don't plan on ever inviting my sister over to stay at my home again if her kids will be with her, that is if she ever decides to even speak to me again. Which even after all this, I do hope our relationship is mended because she is still my sister. Just can't deal with her kids. Update 2. Someone either sent my sister my original post or she is on Reddit herself and saw it. She texted me a link to my post and said she can't believe I'm airing our family drama online. She told me she was leaning towards working out our differences, but now that I've posted it on here, she's done, and blocked me. Since I can't reach her by phone, I'll address her on here since she's clearly reading this. Allison. I do love you and have always cherished our relationship, but if you feel like you're done then that's okay, I can't change your mind. Look at me talking about feelings, you should be proud. At this point I'm pretty done too, so here it is. You are family, but that doesn't mean I am going to be a pushover and allow your children to behave the way they did in my home, especially pulling Bella's hair and smacking her in the face. That was animal abuse. It was all completely unacceptable, and I don't understand how you allow them to behave the way you and Steven allow them to. Some people have suggested I send you a bill for the damage your kids caused, but I'm not going to do that. I'll pay for the repairs, but only because I know this will never happen again, since your kids are not welcome back at my home unless you drastically change your parenting style and finally implement legitimate discipline. I'm still not saying you need to physically discipline them, but you need to do some form of actual discipline before it's too late and their future is ruined. I don't understand why you have decided to gentle parent, or whatever your form of gentle parenting is, and it has changed you as a person. You don't act the way you used to, and now you are offended by everything and don't agree with the way anyone else does anything. I just don't understand what happened. I encourage you to look at some of the comments on the original post to prove to you 99% of people would have done exactly what I did in the situation, and I was not just being harsh. There has to be consequences for bad behavior, or else you are doing your kids a disservice, which is not kind on your part. When you read the comments, some have good parenting advice and others are harsh. But hey, that's life, it's not so gentle. Update 3. Allison, not her real name, finally reached out to me to talk. She read some of the comments and sees that most people think she is neglecting her kids due to her parenting choices. She asked if I agree. I told her I think there could definitely be some changes in the way she parents. She said she had tried gentle parenting but realizes now that she has gotten it wrong. I asked what her plan moving forward is. She apologized for the way her kids acted and said her and her husband have lost friends over the way her kids act because people don't want to be around them. She said this whole ordeal has been a wake-up call. Allison said she's going to try a different parenting style since gentle parenting didn't pan out very well for her kids. She said she's going to enforce punishment/consequences but still no corporal punishment. I said I think that's great. Her worry is that the kids won't take it well and it will cause even more problems. I told her they'll just have to get used to it. Apparently her husband was never in agreement with the gentle parenting, and it has also caused marital issues due to the fact they didn't see eye to eye on it. Now, her husband is happy she's finally come around to some form of consequences and punishment for their kids. I told her I think she's making a very wise decision. I still am not happy about what her kids did to my house and dog, but the fact she's willing to change her parenting style so that doesn't happen again makes me feel a lot less angry. And yes, I got Allison's permission to post this update. We really were able to work things out. She really is a good person, just had a lapse in judgment in parenting. Edit. Since this will be the last update/post on this issue by me, wanted to say something about the permissive parenting versus gentle parenting styles a lot of people commented about. Gentle parenting, how everyone is explaining in the comments, sounds like the kid does something wrong, then the parent asks how they feel, then redirects them to a different task/activity, maybe tells them no, but maybe doesn't. And they call the redirection to a different task/activity the discipline or natural consequence part of gentle parenting. That is the exact same thing as permissive parenting because there is still no legitimate punishment or consequence. I'll agree that my sister wasn't doing the form of gentle parenting everyone was describing because all she did was talk about feelings and left out the redirection and the possible, no, don't do that. But even after reading all the comments, permissive parenting and gentle parenting sound very similar, if not the exact same. If kids are taught redirection is what happens when they do something wrong, they are going to be completely shocked and confused when there are real consequences and punishment and not just redirection or natural consequences in the real world. If they grow up and steal a car, the police arrest them, send them to jail and make them pay a fine, they will think it's an incredibly harsh punishment and be shocked because all they were expecting was a natural consequence of returning the car to the owner and then moving on with their day. Next story. I've decided not to attend my father's wedding despite him saying me and my daughter's attendance is non-negotiable. My 25F father, 45M, and my mother, 40F, got divorced around 2 years ago. To me, it wasn't a surprise at all. I had seen it coming since I was 10 years old. However, to my father and my brother, 17M, it was a total and devastating shock. My brother, who already had a myriad of other mental health and school issues, didn't take it well. And my father was blindsided. Now, 2 years later, him and my mother are both in new relationships. My father met a woman, we'll call her Amy, on a dating website months after the separation with my mother. She had no children of her own and her husband had died, I'm unsure of how long ago. At first they seemed like a good fit. She was a bit odd, but honestly everyone in my family is, so I didn't think much of it. At first she was polite and seemed interested in getting to know my brother, and my daughter, 4F. But over time things became a bit off. Due to medical issues she had to move in with my father and brother, so they were able to help her out, and it quickly became clear that she did not care about my brother. She was rude, inconsiderate, demeaned him, and did her best to play him down as a priority to my father. She was to be my father's main priority. It's her way or no way. Anything she did to my brother that my brother then relayed to our father she denied and accused my brother of being a liar. She has also overtaken and trashed the family home, leaving my brother to either live with the mess or have to clean it himself. Due to this I've never liked her, but have always played civil for my dad's sake while being honest about how I felt with my brother. Now Amy and my father are getting married next week. I do not drive, my own fault, and have apologized to my father frequently for being a burden. As he is adamant me and my daughter be there and has tried to find someone to drive us. Supposedly my aunt had been assigned this task. However, 2 days ago, my husband received a call from my aunt's husband, expressing that he believed it was unsafe for my daughter to attend, the wedding is on a bridge. I found this odd as him and my aunt are still bringing all 4 of their children, ages 4 to 12, and especially because he told my husband not to tell me he called. But I didn't think much of it as I had faith in my aunt's husband to be someone of good faith. That has all been blown out of the water. My brother has texted me multiple times late at night to tell me he's been listening in on Amy and my father's arguments. Amy is nearly adamant on my daughter not attending and is saying all these issues are my fault for not driving. I knew this would cause issues, which is why I had repeatedly apologized to my father for being a burden. My brother then told me my aunt was throwing a fit and angry about being assigned to drive my daughter and I. That she didn't want to bring my daughter either and instead wanted to bring another family member we'll call Sarah. Sarah is older and lives alone. Sarah spends tons of money on my aunt and my aunt knows this, mooching off her as much as she can. Sarah had offered to pay for a hotel room for my aunt and her family. The wedding is an hour from where we all live. It is 100% my aunt's business on who she wants to drive, I won't slight her for that. But the fact she had her husband call mine in an odd attempt to convince me not to bring my daughter just rubbed me the wrong way. My aunt then texted me this morning saying she won't drive my daughter and I said that's fine and told her not to worry about it, I'd figure it out myself. She was clearly mad and told me I better text my dad and my grandparents as everyone was all worked up by the situation. My husband and my mother are now telling me I just shouldn't go, and I agree with them. At this point it feels like I'm a burden and that if my daughter and I do attend it will just be awkward as there's a whole group now working against my daughter attending when they know my father said her attendance is non-negotiable. As my daughter's mother, everyone's adamance on her not being there really bothers me. That on top of how my brother has been treated throughout all of this and his own feelings he has expressed to me, this whole wedding feels like a terrible idea. On top of all this, I am currently 32W pregnant with my second daughter, and the constant back and forth fighting and clear ulterior motives has had me worked up for days at this point. I love my dad, I want to support him and I want him to be happy. I don't think Amy will give him that. And I can't in good faith support this, especially when I've expressed my brother's happiness is my main priority and he is far from happy. My brother has also said if me and my daughter do not attend he will not be attending either. I feel terrible, and am sitting here drafting a text to tell him I won't be coming, but a small part of me feels as if I'm in the wrong and I can't shake it. Edit, to add because a lot of people keep mentioning it. The man I call my father is my stepfather. My bio dad has never been in my life and my stepdad raised me. So I've always called him dad. I didn't know my stepdad wasn't my real dad till I was 9. So no, my stepdad did not get my 15-year-old mother pregnant when he was 20. My mom had me at 16 with my bio father who was also 16 to 17 at the time. Edit 2, yes, my husband knows how to drive. However, the wedding falls on a day he just can't call out of work. As well, he was not particularly eager about the wedding from the moment they announced it. Husband and my father have terrible history and he doesn't like Amy at all for how she's behaved since they got together. Update. It's been a few months, but even recently I've gotten comments for an update on the situation. There isn't too much to update on, but I figured I would for those curious. In the end, neither me or my brother ended up attending the wedding. He went to his girlfriend's the day of and then stayed home alone the rest of the weekend. I had invited him to stay at my house, but in the end he declined. I sent my dad a text beforehand that I was sorry and wanted him to be happy, but if I was backing anyone it would be my brother. He proceeded to send me a very long paragraph about how he couldn't believe what was happening and he really stepped up to be my dad even though I wasn't his kid. How he stepped up for my brother after my mom left when I know well and good he didn't. And that Amy was the right woman for him despite everything. I was too stunned about his comments about him stepping up to be my dad that I kinda glazed over the rest and in the end never replied. As for me and my dad, we have not spoken since, other than me awkwardly texting him happy birthday. I haven't seen them or spoken to them. I haven't spoken to any of his family since then either. I've seen my brother a few times but he doesn't seem eager to talk to me or see me either and I'm unsure why. I've since had my second daughter. Everything went smoothly and she is perfectly healthy. Neither my dad or his family has even texted me since, even though I know they know I had her. At the end of the day, I'm ultimately unfazed. However, I can't deny it's upsetting to lose contact with so much family over something so trivial. I won't be reaching out first to any of them, and knowing how they are, they won't reach out to me either. So I guess that's that. I'm hoping can try and better connect with my brother, as he means a lot to me and I worry about him still living at home with our dad and his new wife. But when I do see him I ask him how home life is and he kinda just shrugs me off. Thank you to everyone who gave advice on my original post and to all those who were curious about how it all ended. Next story. Am I the butthole for leaving my girlfriend after she got a dog? Hello, I'm 25M, and my girlfriend is 23F. We've been together for over a year, and we generally have a great relationship. She's funny and kind. However, yesterday, when I got home, there was a golden retriever in our house. When I asked my girlfriend whose dog it was, she smiled and said, "Ours." I wasn't sure if she was joking or being serious, so I kept asking whose dog it was. She kept smiling and saying, "Ours," and then proceeded to say the dog's name. I don't really remember what she said her name was since a lot was going through my mind. She even told the dog to say, "Hi Dad." I told her that she couldn't be serious right now, and she replied, "Why?" with a big smile. I didn't say anything else and just left the house and went to a hotel. At the beginning of our relationship, I had told her that I don't like dogs and can't be in the same room with one. Even when I see one in public, I put a good distance between me and the person walking the dog. I told her if she ever wanted a pet, she would have to get a cat or something else that is not a dog. While at the hotel, my girlfriend called me a couple of times, but I didn't answer. Then she texted me, saying that I was overreacting and that my fear of dogs is ridiculous. She said I should at least give it a try and live with a dog for a while, and that she and the dog would help me overcome my fear. But I never asked to overcome it, and honestly, it never bothered me as long as there were no dogs in my house. I never got bothered by one in public because I always put a good distance between me and dogs. I have never even petted a dog before and never will. I ignored her messages and just went to sleep, as I wanted to decide what to do when my head was clearer. I don't want to be the guy who says it's either me or the dog. She clearly likes dogs, and I don't, so I was thinking of just breaking up with her, even though she has been amazing throughout the year. Am I the butthole for wanting to break up with her over this? Update. First of all, I want to thank everyone for their feedback and support. After reading many comments from both perspectives, people who were saying I'm not the butthole and the ones who were saying you are the butthole, I went to see my girlfriend and we talked for a bit. I told her what she did was wrong, but she insisted that I was overreacting and she wasn't ready to apologize. After talking a bit more, I told her I wanted to break up with her. At first, she didn't believe me and thought I was trying to hurt her or get revenge on her. Then she started crying, and then she got angry and tried to hit me. I held her until she calmed down. After a while, we talked again and she said, "What am I supposed to do?" She mentioned that she can't take care of the dog by herself, so I offered to help her find a new place for the dog. I also offered that if she didn't want to move out, she could stay at my place and I would find a new place for myself. Additionally, I told her that I would cover her rent for this month. I know I didn't have to do any of these things, but I couldn't just leave her like that and I don't want to see her suffer or have a hard time. She said thanks for the offer and that she would think about it. I could tell that she was still in shock, so I didn't really know what to say to her and I didn't want her to feel worse, so I decided to give her some space. For the past couple of days, I have been staying with a friend and I had him bring some of my stuff until my ex-girlfriend decides if she wants to stay there or find a new place for herself. I decided to give her a couple of days to decide. The day after I broke up with her, my friend and I tried to find a new place for the dog, as she couldn't take care of her. She told me she took the dog to one of her friend's houses, but her friend couldn't help her with finding a permanent place for the dog. Honestly, none of this is good for my mental health and I have taken a week off work just to solve everything. I can't leave the dog on the street, and I'm pretty sure it's illegal to do that in the UK. Anyways, we had no luck and couldn't find any place for the dog, so we decided to try again tomorrow. After me and my friend went back to his home, my ex called me. She called to ask for one more chance and she apologized. I said I forgive you, and what's done is done, but I think it's better if we go our separate ways. She wasn't happy with it. I will just skip this conversation here since she was just cursing and saying I will never find someone like her or that I will die single, etc. A day later, which was yesterday at the time of making this update, my friend called me saying he got good news. He found someone to take the dog, and we are still waiting for that person to take her. On the same day, around 11:30 p.m. to 12 a.m., my ex started calling me again. It was quite late, so I decided to wait for her to leave a message to see what she wanted, but she just kept calling. When I finally picked it up, she asked me to forgive her again. I told her that I already have, but we're simply not compatible, and I told her, "You're young and beautiful, you will find someone else." But she got even more pissed. That's basically it for now. I didn't expect the original post to go viral. I was expecting maybe 30 comments and hoping for a small, manageable amount of feedback. Because of this, I didn't provide too many details in the initial post, thinking I could answer questions as they came up. So this time I tried to give as many details as I'm comfortable with. If you still have any questions, then feel free to ask and I will try to answer them. Please just leave this 345 random number in the question so I can find the questions by searching for that number. Thank you again for all your support and advice. It means a lot to me. Additional info from OP. Since this question was asked a lot, I will just answer it now. Question: Why do you fear dogs? Why do you have cynophobia, dog phobia? A. I was attacked by a dog when I was a kid and almost died from it. I was hospitalized for about a month, and it took months to be able to walk normally. Also, her calling my fear ridiculous was the only thing that really hurt me since she knew about this. More info from OP. This is not an update, but I want to make some things clear since I can't reply to all the questions, over 1,000 comments. Was it a puppy or a dog? No, it wasn't a puppy, it was a full-grown dog. Why did you leave without talking to her? I left to avoid saying anything out of anger and needed to clear my head before talking to her. That's also why I didn't answer her calls or messages. Her messages made me even angrier, as I didn't want or need any help. Is it your house or her house? I pay the rent of the house, and she moved in with me after we talked and decided to live together. Since my place was closer to both of our workplaces and bigger, we decided to move in here. She was struggling financially, and she insisted on paying half the rent, but I didn't let her pay till she get into a better place financially. Why did you post on Reddit? I made this post as I was still not sure what to do after waking up. The reasons I wanted to break up are: I felt disrespected that she would make such a big decision in our house without informing me beforehand. This isn't just about the dog. I believe anyone in a relationship should make big decisions together, and her not thinking the same is a big issue for me. I felt betrayed that she would use my phobia against me and say it's ridiculous since it's not something I can control or choose to have. I don't want her to not have a dog if she really wants one. I've seen her looking at dog reels on Instagram a lot but never thought she wanted one since she never mentioned it. When we started our relationship, I told her I can't be around dogs because I know this can be a deal breaker for some, but she still said she didn't mind, which now makes me mad that she said that. Final update. Yesterday, before making the post, I asked for a raise at my job, and they responded that they can't afford it. So today, I went there and quit my job. I'm about to go see the person who wants the dogs. If we can tell that he's able to take care of her, then we will let him take the dog. Lastly, my ex will keep the place, and I will try to get my name off the lease, which shouldn't take more than a day or two. There will be no more updates after this because I don't see why anyone would want to know what happened afterwards. But I will update on the dog situation today after I come back home, and I will still try to answer questions in my free time. One more note, I know most of you think that I shouldn't have helped my ex like that, but I didn't do it just for her. I did it for myself and to ensure that an innocent dog doesn't suffer the consequences of her actions. I made this decision because she has no family or relatives in the UK and no real friends. Now, imagine if I had kicked her out with the responsibility of the dog and she was left with nowhere to sleep or any decent friend to come to her rescue, and she has no family. This situation often leads someone to contemplate drastic actions, like suicide. Now, I'm not saying she would have done this 100%, but there's a good chance she might, and it's better to be safe than sorry. So, I did what I did for myself because I don't want to look back at this with regret. I want to see this as a time where I grew as a person. So, I would say I was pretty selfish. Thanks everyone, peace out. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel James Stories.